But in here, I want you to go kind of through and start making those decisions of when do we use what commands. That's kind of the focus of today, is picking the commands to use, because just using the commands is easy, but knowing which commands to use, how to sequence it, how to, okay, I'm gonna do this sketch, then this feature, then this and this and this. That's the hard part of doing all this. And so today, that's kind of the focus of today. So here we have 4 cones that are all pretty similar, right? Here we have one with and I forgot to give the dimension, but they're all 1/2 inch high, okay? So we've got the height on all of them. Here we've got the diameter and the angle of the side. Here we have 2 diameters. Here we have a diameter here, and then the length of that side edge. And here we have the diameter and how far over there. Oops, let me see if they fixed this. Where is it? No. Let's see if this will work. See if it'll stay on now. All right, so depending on how its dimension, it kind of changes what we might use to make it. So on A there, if I have the base diameter and the angle that it's tapering, what commands could I use for it?
Extrude.
Extrude, right? Because if I extrude, I can add a taper to it, right? Remember? That's an easy one. I just draw a circle, I extrude it with the angle, done. Right? Easy. B, I have 2 different diameters. What do you think is going to be, the best option for that? What?
Probably loft.
Revolve?
Revolve. Did I just say that?
Revolve.
But they're centered, so revolve is a great option because they have the same center line. So I could sketch just a line straight down the center line, over here, up here, over there, right? I could sketch that. That's an easy thing to draw and revolve around. If they weren't centered, what command would I have to use?
Loft.
Loft. But if they're centered, revolve. What about C? I have the base diameter and then the length of that edge.
Same thing, right? Just revolve it again.
It's the same profile, I just change which dimensions I use. And then over here, I have the horizontal distance for that. There's actually 2 options I can do here.
I'm thinking loft.
Loft is not the answer to any of these. They're all the same shape and they're all centered, so definitely not loft. So I could do an extrude and then a chamfer command right there, right? Or I can do what? The same revolve. The same profile right here.
Okay.
I can just change it from dimensioning the top to dimensioning the edge to dimensioning that, right? And have that same revolve. What would make me choose rather to do this as a revolve versus extruding it straight and doing a chamfer? And I know I haven't shown you guys chamfer yet, but we'll get to it in just a minute.
Well, I'm still not seeing how you would revolve that because I don't think there's enough dimensions given.
Like that. The diameter, I already said everything's a 1/2 inch, and then I can just give in this 1/8 inch dimension there. So we can do it either way. Kind of what I would choose is if I was going to make it, so let's come over here. I sketch here, and I draw a line from there to there to there to there to there. If I want to be able to dimension from here all the way across the diameter of this, and not just, because this line is just the radius, right? If If I want to do with the diameter, what do I have to do?
Make the center line.
Yeah, so I have to turn this one into the center line. Now I can dimension from that line to here, to the point, and put in my dimension. Oops. I think that's 0.5. And look, it fixed itself. Ta-da. Don't worry. Things go crazy like that as you're starting to add dimensions, you can fix it. You can also, in your profile, go to preferences. One of them here in design, I think, is scale entire sketch at first dimension.
Ooh.
So that means that when
Like
you
that.
add your first dimension, no matter how out of scale you are, it's going to scale everything down proportionally to that first dimension. So that might be one you might want to turn on. So I have that, but this point here can still move in and out, right? So in that first example, I dimensioned there. The second example, instead there, I dimensioned here. So remember, if you have your mouse here, you're gonna get the vertical. If you have it way up here, you're gonna get the horizontal, and put it up here, you're gonna get the angular. Okay, so second dimension I dimensioned here, third one I dimensioned here. And I can just revolve that. And since that's the center one, it's automatically gonna go. So what's the difference between doing that and then doing a circle here? Why is my thing blue? Why? I told it how big to be.
It's not centered. It's not linked to the origin.
It can move around, so
Yeah.
just to make it locked down, I'm just gonna tell it to be horizontal between those points, and I'm putting a dimension. So I have this one here. So chamfer is one we haven't used before, or I think I might have done it real quick. But it's just like fillet, but instead of doing a rounded corner, it does an angular corner. So chamfer is used a lot. Remember we talked about a deburring thing, so they're not a sharp edge. Chamfers are done a lot for that. But they're also done for bigger things. So if I just did this and I pick the edge, I can totally be really small and just put a little tiny chamfer on it. You can see as I drag this down, it grows, and you can see it's saying equal distance. So what angle is that chamfer? What angle is that cutting?
Like 45.
45. So that's the same distance each way, right? So that's the default option. So if you're doing a break for an edge or something like that, that's usually the option you keep. But we also have other options here. We have two distances, so we can have two different dimensions. So I can do that one, and now I can have one dimension go this way and another dimension go this way.
Ooh, that's interesting.
So I could do this as, I could tell it to go 1, 2, 5 into the side, and my full ½ inch down there, right? So I can get the same thing that I had on this one. What's the difference? Because they look the same now, right? What's the difference?
The chamfer's longer.
So
Takes longer?
what happens if I want to change it to be, say, 5/8 high, and I still want it to stay the whole height? Which one of these is better?
So, revolve.
The first one might be right, because now I can just go
Yeah.
here,
Change the sketch.
change that height, and it stays connected and everything. What if I really want it to be the chamfer of ½ inch to stay the same no matter how tall it gets? Then maybe
Well,
this
the
one
chamfer can't.
is better, right? But I could also be a little bit more intelligent about it, because when I go here, remember that's D8? Remember I can use my equation, so I can tell it that I want this height to be D8. Oh.
Oh,
And it stays. So now, if I change this height, it's always going to be the same. So now which is better?
The chamfer.
The chamfer, because now I can make other changes. I can make it go the whole height or less height without having to change the sketch. Changing a sketch is hard, because now I have to break the sketch, I have to undo. If I want to make this piece that high and have the chamfer only go part way, boom, easy. Easy change. If I want to do the same thing to this one, now I have to go in here, have to undo that constraint there, and now I have to draw a new line in here. And it's harder to edit that sketch than it is just to edit the chamfer, right? So that's kind of why, another reason why I like having smaller things, smaller chunks. And if I can do it as the feature, I prefer the feature. But if we know it's never going to change like that, then sure, might as well do it in the sketch. But if I can do it separate, I want to do it separate. It's easier. Also, it's easier to draw a circle and extrude it and then do a chamfer than it is to draw 4 lines, right? At least in my head. So that's something to try out. And so that's why we have this exercise here. Thomas, sit down. So you can practice doing different ways to do this thing. Okay? Any questions on that? So there's that one. There's here we have chamfers and corner cuts. So in a lot of cases when we have these ones like A and B, here I didn't give you step by step because I was trying to have you be a little bit more kind of on your own with some of them, because the first one is, what's the first step to doing this one? What do you have to draw before you can do anything else? You have to get a box that's 3.5 by 2 1/4 by 1/2 inch, right? I don't care how you do it. You can sketch 3.5 by 1/2 inch and extrude out 2 1/4. You could sketch 3.5 by 2 1/4 and sketch up that, which is probably what I would do. I start with I sketch the big thing, and then I extrude the thickness. That's kind of my process for most things. If I'm always going to sketch kind of the profile of it, and then extrude up the smallest dimension. That's what I like to do. And then here we can do A and B, just different types of chamfers. And you might even want to try practicing the other one also. So I'm not going to do that one exactly, but if I create a sketch here, you can see it's scaled both of them that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I accidentally drug this down and I forgot how to. So if you do it, you can say pin to toolbar and it'll come back to the top, and then you can drag it back around wherever you want it. So I accidentally grabbed it and drug it up down here, and that makes it go away. So you can see now it's gone. So to get it back, you have to go up, click here, click on the little 3 buttons here to say pin toolbar, and now you can grab it and drag it back where you want it. So there, now I've got my piece. So if I pick chamfer here, you can see, again, I have my 2 different edges, and if you hit flip, it flips which direction those cuts are going. Okay? Sometimes we have to hit flip. We also have distance and angle. So it's going to measure the distance from where the corner was on one direction, and then the angle kind of from that surface. You can see here, I'm going backwards an inch right there, I'm going that direction. And this one is measuring from that same line how many degrees. Okay? So if the dimension gave you like the angle on this side and that dimension, then you have to kind of flip in your head. So if it's 30 degrees between here and where this line was, what's the angle between this line and that line? 60.
60.
Yeah, because it's a 90 degree corner, so it's just you subtract it.
Mm-hmm.
So if they told you 60 and that distance, then you just have to subtract it. I'm not sure if I did that.
Complementary angles.
So I didn't do that on these two, but over here, I did that. But do I give you the distance from the corner?
No.
So can we use the chamfer command?
Yes. Yeah. Well,
If you do the math, then you can use chamfer, right?
yeah.
And so, do I like to do math? No.
You can tell it to do the math. Just tell it to subtract the two.
So I could look up that equation stuff, but I could also just sketch a line real quick. So I could just, sketch a line from here to here and then dimension it real quick. That's going to be my angle. And from that point to that point.
Oh, that's better.
Whatever it is. So in this case, I'd rather just sketch it than do the math, but either way, you could do the math, and especially if you knew what that was going to be, you could set up ahead of time. And that's going to be the focus of next week, of doing some pre-set up stuff to make it easier. But for this, I'd probably just put in this dimension here to tie that in. And this isn't just for this line, but other things where if you have to dimension to something else, sometimes it's easier just to create the sketch on that. And these one-line sketches are my favorite. I do them way more than you think I do. I can say all the way through and cut that off. There. So now that's always going to be there, no matter how wide I make that part. It's always going to have that same 2-inch dimension there, right? So that's kind of where that comes from. Any questions on that? No. This next one was just finishing the edge, so just picking the face, and then doing fillets on it also. And then this last one talks about the corners, because when we do three-way corners, if I pick 2 edges, changing this does nothing. But if I had 3 edges selected, I can either get that look, or that look. This look is easiest to make.
That one.
This one right here. Because now they can just run the chamfer mill this way, and that way. Or they can profile this one and chamfer it that way. You want this one, they have to roll it around the corner, so just cut off, but it's still kind of okay. This one, I think the machinist is going to want to take you out back and introduce you to the side end of a stick. Because trying to do a 45-degree cut across each of those corners is going to be a pain in the butt.
They'd have to grind it, yeah?
Yeah, they might have to grind it, but trying to program that in on the CNC, they're going to be like, what are you doing? So part of it is when we design stuff, we want to make it easy to be made. Pick this off, and yeah, it looks cooler, but it's a lot harder to make.
Yeah, but if you're working with a 1/4-inch PLA, good luck.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what the rest of the exercises are on here, are just kind of picking the whole face to chamfer all the edges at once, doing the corners and the reflections. So that's this thing, okay? So we're gonna kind of stop at this point. Any questions on this? Yep.
You mentioned at the beginning, and I apologize, I missed it, the order of features. You talked about extrude, revolve, lock.
Yep.
We listed somewhere.
I do not have it listed here on here.
Can you recite that, please?
Features, extrude, revolve, sweep, loft. Yeah, I'm still working on trying to make my flow chart look nice. It's still mostly words. And then we're gonna actually use that later on today. So right now, work on this one that's 2.2.6. As well as if you still need to do your stuff on loft. Later on, oops, that's not supposed to be 23. So I'm gonna let you work on this for like an hour, so like until 9:30 or so.